Downtown, I got that heat, let's go.
Alright folks, I really do appreciate you guys for your patience. For some reason, my microphone wasn't initially working, so I had to reinstall it and reset my interface and redo the computer settings and the Streamlabs, and it was just a thing. So I want to see if you guys can give me a sound check real quick. Give me a mic check. Give me a 1 in the chat if we are good for the go. If you guys can hear me clearly, if the gain is up and loud and clear, let me know. And then what I'm going to do is after that, once I get the clearance on the audio, I'm going to go ahead and do a video check and we'll see that I'm up there on the screen. Hey Spurzan, good to see you. Glad you could be here for the live show. Alright, I got a 1 from Spurzan. Thank you. I see Dusty is here, maybe, still here. Razor is here, possibly. Good to see Razor. I always see Razor in the comments of the videos. It's good to see people making it from the videos over to the live streams, of course. You know, where the interaction is obviously a little bit more complete. You know, I mean, the live chats are the best. You guys get it in the live chats. You discuss the topics. You give your takes, your opinions. I try to read them and get to most of them. I try not to miss any. And of course, it gives us some ideas. Discuss some concepts. Sometimes I don't look at certain things the same way as everybody, you know, and vice versa. You like to hear those kind of differing opinions. Nobody wants to be in an echo chamber all the time. All right, let me go ahead and try the video. Let me see if it's working. All right, let me know if you guys can still hear me. And let me know if the music might still be on, but it's probably really low, which is good. I don't want it to be too overpowering and distracting. But just something to break the noise, I suppose. Alright, Spurzan, I see you. Razor, I see you. Let me know if the video is good, and let me know if the mic is still good. Hopefully those settings transferred. Oh man, it was a thing. I have no idea what happened either. Literally, I checked all my settings. I couldn't find anything. I checked every plug. The interface, the computer. I restarted it, and I still couldn't figure out why the mic failed, so... Alright, cool, Dusty, thank you. I just had to, like, reinstall it in the Streamlabs, and now we're good, I guess. Alright. Let me tell you guys what we're going to be discussing tonight on the show. We're going to start off by discussing the Phoenix Suns' horrible season. I think it's a horrible season by any metric. I don't understand how anybody could probably, you know, justify. I just don't. I don't see how anybody could justify it as a good season. I don't. And, you know, part of it is because they have expectations. You know, God forbid a team has expectations. And actually the Suns, they've got reason to have the highest of expectations. So they probably, because of those high, lofty expectations, they're probably the biggest disappointment in the league. It's not like the Raptors, which are clearly in a rebuilding mode, and they're trying to get pieces around Scotty Barnes. You know, they bring R.J. Barrett. They trade for Brandon Ingram. You know, you look at the Hornets. They're a work in progress. They're drafting guys, you know. The Brooklyn Nets, there's no expectations. They blew that shit up a couple years ago, you know. But when you got the payroll that the Phoenix Suns have, and you have the high-profile players that the Phoenix Suns have, my goodness, you gotta have expectations. I mean, you tell me as a fan of your team, if your team was leading the league in NBA salary, and you were taking that luxury tax hit as the owner, the GM, and this whole thing is just like blowing up in your face. I mean, yeah, it'd be a problem. In fact, if I'm a Phoenix Suns fan, oh my God, I'm gonna pull my damn hair out. I feel bad for the Phoenix Suns fans. I don't feel bad for anybody else. I don't feel bad for Kevin Durant. I don't feel bad for Devin Booker. Maybe a little bit for Booker, but not really. Hard to feel bad for a guy that is making $50 million a year. I don't feel bad for Bradley Beal. In fact, I think he's a part of the problem. I'm going to put a lot of this on Durant, of course. Feel bad for the coach a little bit, right? Gets into that position. You got to realize what you're signing up for. But man, we'll talk about it. What else are we going to discuss? We're going to talk about the NBA playoffs. The NBA playoffs have betting odds. We'll look to see who's got the best odds to win it, where people are putting their money in Vegas. We'll talk about the teams that are, have the best chances or the best odds. Who I would pick if I was a betting man. I am not a betting man, but I'll tell you guys what I think of the odds and where I would put money if I was one. Oh, here we go with the LeBron is the GOAT nonsense. So we're going to start trolling right away. M. Fisher, we're going to start trolling. I literally just launched the show like 2 minutes ago. You come in here and you start hitting it with the troll. Man, the trolls never stop. Terrible. Absolutely terrible. All right, so we'll be talking about those betting odds. We'll talk about the playoffs themselves. We'll look at the seeding. There are some teams that are locked into their place. We'll talk about their matchups. We'll talk about the play-in. There's still some movement that could happen within the West, obviously. They got to finish their last game. There's tiebreakers. There's all types of stuff in play there. What else? We're going to talk about what LeBron has been saying and what NBA greats and legends have been saying towards LeBron lately. Man, there's a lot of venom going back and forth between LeBron and the media. I really do think that the media is starting to kind of fracture a little bit on LeBron. His stranglehold on the media is not as strong as it used to be. When he was winning championships and he was in the finals all the time, and you wanted to be a media member that was in the know and had access to LeBron and all of his people and all that, you were like, do whatever it takes, Only say nice things, only say good things. Don't upset the media machine that is, Clutch Sports and that whole thing. But like when you can't produce championships, when you're not like a big winner anymore, you're just another guy, And it's not that he's just another guy, it's just he's not producing the chips he used to. Who's going to feel compelled to cap for you? The media probably is looking at this like, why the hell are we going to lie to people? Yeah, we'll talk about it, Razor. Absolutely. We'll talk about it for sure. And then there was a report that came out that there's an NBA scout that anonymously was saying that LeBron's defense could be exploited in the playoffs and could become a weakness. And we'll talk about it. We'll kind of discuss his defense, and we'll discuss kind of his most recent performances in the playoffs and kind of how he played this year on defense and things of that nature. And we'll kind of discuss to see if maybe that scout has a point. And then Isaiah Thomas, man. The real Isaiah Thomas. Not the one that played for Boston. The one that played for the bad boy Pistons. The real Isaiah Thomas, the NBA champion. The legend. The bad boy. One of the reasons why my Cavs, it took them till 2016 to get an NBA Finals was because of the Pistons, All right, let's jump in with this first story, okay? All right, so starting first with the Phoenix Suns. I think the best way to do this is to kind of look at their record, look at their recent moves, things of that nature, and then talk about their season as a whole. All right. So the Phoenix Suns, really had a good team that they were building. This goes back to Monty Williams. Some of you guys may remember back when Monty Williams was a coach for the Suns. And they were really building something nice. This goes back to 2019-2020. They actually finished that season 34 and 39. But they were building a team. There were picks, there were draft picks. The roster construction was coming together in a certain way. They were basically like a 500 team, close to 500. They didn't make the playoffs, I don't think. But the following year, which was 2020-2021, the Phoenix Suns decided that that was going to be their breakout season. And the Phoenix Suns went 51 and 21. If you guys remember that season, that was the shortened, pandemic season. They had a 71% win percentage. And they made it into the playoffs. And not only did they make it to the playoffs, but the Phoenix Suns lost in the NBA Finals. They got to the NBA Finals in Monty Williams' second season with the team. Their upside at that point was like it was being reached. This is before Durant. This is before Bradley Beal. This was a team that was built around the leadership of Chris Paul, the emergence of a couple of young players, namely Devin Booker, right, kind of coming into his own. I remember a couple other players like Campaign and all these guys had their little bits and rolls. And then they lost in the Western Conference Finals the following season. Still, very successful season. They went from 51 and 21 to 64 and 18. So they actually, by record, had a better season the following year in 21-22. They lost in the Western Conference Finals. Or Western Conference semifinals, excuse me. So you would say that's a regression. It's not enough to get a coach fired. It's not something that's a huge problem. Your team is still intact, right? And then the following year comes around, 2022, 2023, and they regress. They go 45 and 37, and they lost in the Western Conference semis again. And that's where things started to get kind of hairy. I think it was the trade deadline, around the trade deadline, February of 2023, they traded for Kevin Durant. And in order to trade for Kevin Durant, they had to completely change like the roster construction. You're trying to make room for these salaries. You know what you're trying to do here. So Kevin Durant's traded in February of 2023. That deal shipped him away from the Brooklyn Nets over to Phoenix. The trade involved the Bucks and the Pacers too. I'm not sure exactly how it was all structured, but that's how Mikal Bridges got to Brooklyn. That's how Cam Johnson got to Brooklyn. Basically, all of the Suns' picks and depth all ended up going to Brooklyn. There were pick swaps and all this other stuff. Okay, so right there, the thought process was, we're further away than we were the previous couple of years, so we need to change directions. So they follow up the trade with Kevin Durant to acquire Bradley Beal in the summer of 2023. So they're starting to build their new team, moving on from Chris Paul and moving on from the team that actually got to the NBA Finals. At this point, they're like completely distanced so far away from what they were. It's not even close to the same team. New coach, new players, a completely revamped roster. There's not a semblance of what that team was before. Really, the only exception I could think of was Devin Booker. That's it. Moving on from Chris Paul, moving on from all that depth you had on your bench and those nice young pieces, everybody's gone. It's like a new team. So you go with the three guys on the screen. So since the summer of 23, the expectation is the team was really close before. These are the three guys that are going to get you to the NBA Finals and give you a chance to compete for a championship. And then, real life kicks in. And the Phoenix Suns, that were 45 and 37 in the 22-23 season, go 49 and 33 the following year, where they lost in the first round of the playoffs. I don't care how you slice it. You could talk about injuries and all this other stuff. I don't really care. The Frank Vogel-led Suns underachieved because they lost in the first round. That is just too much talent to lose in the first round. And I get it. The West is tough. You know what I mean? It's just a tough conference. It's been that way. There's a lot of talent out there. Like, you know, all the stars want to be out there. You know, Joker is out there. The emerging Thunder are out there. You know, the Lakers with AD and LeBron were out there. You know, obviously over the course of those years, LeBron has aged, but the Mavericks happened. You know what I mean? Like, all these teams. But the Suns, like, look at all this talent. How many All-NBA teams have these guys made over the course of their careers? How many first-team All-NBA, second-team All-NBA, third-team All-NBA? How many scoring titles? How many MVPs? You know, because you look at Durant with all those accolades. And Bradley Beal, who is essentially viewed as this great player who was stuck in Washington. That's what they said. Devin Booker, this great talent with all this great potential. He's like Kobe and all this other talk. Like, so now you got expectations, and they wet the bed. You know what I mean? They completely wet the bed. The 2024-2025 season is the climax of their fuckery. These guys went 36-45 this year and just got eliminated from the play-in tournament, I think, last night in the loss to the Thunder. Maybe it was the night before. I'll have to go back and check. I forgot. But they ain't going. And this whole time, all we've heard is excuses. Oh, Kevin Durant injuries and Bradley Beal injuries. That's who the hell they are. That's who the hell they've been. Oh, and Devin Booker, you know, we got to feel bad for him. They did all this to the team. What? Can we talk about the Suns here for a second from a serious, like nothing juvenile. No cap. All right, this is all fact here. Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal have all NBA teams. These are all-star players, all in the recent and then the present. And there's talk of there being internal problems between the players and the coach Budenholzer. And now they're talking about how, what, you're going to say it was his fault? Are you serious? You've been in underachieving for a few years now. I got Kevin Durant on record saying he doesn't want to be a leader. Well, then who the hell's going to lead this team? Nobody, apparently. Guys, the Phoenix Suns have the highest salary in the NBA. Phoenix's payroll is $210 million. And that is $10 million ahead of the Minnesota Timberwolves, who have the second highest salary in the league. The Suns are in the luxury tax, which, for those of you that don't know what that means, their payroll is so high they have to pay excessive fee, a higher fee actually. Like, you know, you use too much, you got to pay more, right? Their luxury tax is $152 million. Oh my God. Could you imagine? Oh my God. Could you imagine that you're the owner of this team and your payroll is $210 million and you just got dinged for $152 million on top of that because you're over the luxury tax and you didn't make the play-in? There's no playoff revenue for the Suns. There's no round 1 of the playoffs. There's no round 2 of the playoffs. There's no Western Conference Finals. And I got Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker. It's crazy. Kevin Durant is being paid $50 million. Bradley Beal, who has a no-trade clause, is being paid $50 million a year. Devin Booker, $49 million. The Suns, while they have the highest salary in the NBA, their luxury tax bill is actually fourth highest ever in the history of the league. That $152 million fine is higher than the Charlotte Hornets team salary. How do you think the owner feels about his players? How do you think the owner feels about his coach? How do you think the owner feels about his organization right now? The reason why this happened with the Suns is they tried to rush the process. The process is draft good players, make good free agent acquisitions, operate within the confines and the structure of your plan. The Suns panicked. The Suns tried to bust a U-turn very abruptly because they got close to the promised land, lost, saw themselves taking steps backwards, and instead of doing the right moves, they just did the big moves, and it backfired. Kevin Durant in OKC told you everything you needed to know about his mentality. He told you everything about who he was. Charles Barkley has talked about this extensively when he talks about bus riders. Charles Barkley, a lot of these older legacy players, the legends, will talk about the NBA players' mentality today. The pressure to be great is heavy, and the pressure to be a champion is heavy. And Kevin Durant kind of jumped the line in a way if you think about it. He went to a instant championship squad in the Thunder and just, in the Warriors, and he just put him over the top. And he didn't have to be a leader. The culture was already established. Steve Kerr had a system. Steph Curry was the genetic backbone of that squad. Klay Thompson, a legend in his own right. Draymond Green, we know his role on those championship squads. He just went in there and just shot the basketball. Played a little defense, He was like a bounty hunter. No pressure. Don't have to do too much. The expectations, he just had to come in and knock down some shots. He didn't even have to fit into the offense. They just gave him the ball, gave him some space, and they said, shoot over whoever's in front of you that's shorter than you and can't block you anyway. And that was great. And then his injury, and then he falls out with the organization, and then he wants to move on. And then it was back to Kevin. Whatever the hell was going on in Brooklyn with the team, Harden and Kyrie, that just didn't work. The stars didn't align. And at that point in each of those guys' respective careers, they weren't really making it happen. A bunch of stuff, sideline stuff. And then he goes to Phoenix, and he's still not your leader. He never was, he never will be. It's very late in his career. The best of Kevin Durant is behind him. He's still an amazing player. One of the best offensive players, an offensive force that I've ever seen. Very dominant. No player is perfect. But the Suns signed up for this. Kevin Durant told you who he was every step of the way. He told you who he was in OKC. He told you who he was in Golden State. He told you who he was in Brooklyn. He told you exactly who he was. He's telling everybody. He just wants to hoop. He doesn't want to be a leader. He doesn't want responsibility. At least he says he doesn't. I don't know if he really means it. I can't believe a superstar would say something like that. That's why I don't believe it to be true. I feel like he's lying. I feel like a star can't say those kind of things. You're like destroying your legacy by saying things like, I don't want to lead. It's just crazy to me. Because the NBA legends I knew growing up and I saw play, and even the more modern ones in the last 5 or 10 years, the last 15, 20 years, they don't say shit like that. That shit was crazy to me. All these guys have gotten exposed on the Suns. From the owner to the GM to the coaches to these players who are the most culpable. None of them buy in on defense. None of them play consistently enough, healthy enough. It's all those things. I see some of the comments in the chat, man. You guys are amazing. I'm going to read some of them. You guys may have seen them kind of scrolling up on the screen. Spurs Ann said, I appreciate Chris Paul working to help the Spurs and Rookie of the Year, Stephon Castle. You know, he's got those abilities, and I was really down on Chris Paul this year, early on in the year, but he kind of grew on me. I'm not a big fan of Chris Paul. I've always viewed him as an underachiever. He had chances to be great or greater, to be a champion, and he just kind of choked and got injured all the time in the playoffs. But yeah, I agree. I mean, things were working when he was in Phoenix. Razor says, KD and Booker are pure scorers. They need a great point guard and center to make it work. I mean, Razor, I agree. I think there's something to be said about roster construction. These guys, they're great in their own right in what they do, but they need certain complementary pieces, which they gutted the roster. So there are no complementary pieces that coincide and complement their strengths, right? You need to address their weaknesses, other players' strengths, you know? 3 legendary players and the team's drowning in debt. I'm telling you, Dusty, seriously. Seriously, man. Spurzan said, Booker should be a role player. Beal is damaged goods. KD is chasing cash. I wonder if any of that is true. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure KD wants to win more championships. I don't think that's the issue. I just think all these guys are kind of just jumping the line, right? They're trying to jump the process. KD doesn't want to be a leader, just wants to play while making money. Can we really expect him to be motivated to win a chip with the Suns? Like I said, I think he's motivated to win. Winning a championship is hard. Winning a championship takes so much sacrifice. Some of these guys have found a way to not really sacrifice much and still win one. Like KD going to the Warriors. There wasn't really much sacrifice there. You know what I mean? What I think the Miami Heat built when they did like LeBron and Bosh and Wade, you know, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like some of that stuff's kind of cheap. Spurzan said he stopped chasing greatness after 2 chips. I don't know. I don't think he stopped chasing greatness. I think he wants to be great, and he wants to be greater. He wants to enhance his legacy and his resume. I just think his decision-making has been bad, and I think he's lost a lot of his physical greatness, right? The physical ability is starting to evade him. You know, he's aging. His game is still predicated around skill, but there does come a point where your skill will start to reduce because you have less athleticism. I think we're seeing some of that with KD. It's not completely gone or anything. You know, he doesn't have to run 100 miles an hour to be an effective player, but, you know, we are seeing him slow down a little bit. His scoring is still very good. Very few guys can score like KD. It's pretty crazy. KD doesn't seem to do well when the heavy load of a team is put on him. His run with the Nets and the Suns have been a failure. Hard to argue that. Yeah, I can't push back on that one. KD, Russ, and Harden could have been legendary for OKC. Now they are flying in the wind. You know what I'm going to do, and you guys can speak on this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the link in the chat. And if you guys want to kind of chime in, you can. Go ahead and, excuse me, go ahead and jump in there. Click that link. It'll put you into the meet. I'm going to take one person at a time. I'm going to try to give everybody a little bit of a run. Give you a couple minutes. Give us your thoughts. Give us your opinions on the Phoenix Suns. Tell me a little bit about what your thoughts and opinions are on Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant. I think a lot of people have a lot to say about Kevin Durant. His legacy, what the Suns pit stop means. And I think also worth discussing is, where does he end up next year? Do we really expect him to stay in Phoenix? I think Phoenix is looking to blow this thing up and move on. I don't know if they keep all 3 of these guys. I don't know if they keep 2 of them. I don't know if they keep 1 of them. Maybe they do a complete reset. I think that's a possibility too. This is a big story. This is like a case study in how not to jumpstart, try to cut the line of the process. because I think people saw what KD did for the Warriors and they thought that they could recreate that in Brooklyn and they could recreate that in Phoenix. What the Warriors had established is like one of the rarest things we've ever seen in the NBA. Like the perfect shooting duo, which then became the perfect shooting trio. And then all the supplemental pieces around Steph and Clay and KD, they were locking down defense and they were rebounding and they were, holding down the perimeter and Dre and all that. It was just, it became easy for them. I mean, look at that team as they went through the finals runs. I mean, the Cavs couldn't even compete. And they had some of the best players in the NBA, right? They had Kyrie Irving, who was in his prime. LeBron was still in his physical prime, I would say. Offensively, very potent. It was probably his best offensive abilities, actually. Most reliable shooting, that sort of thing. Kevin Love was there. All their supplemental guys. This is just crazy. And like I said, I don't feel bad for any of these guys. Maybe I feel a little bit bad for the coach, maybe, but you signed up for this. And you knew what it was going to be. The owner, man. I don't feel bad for billionaires, you know what I mean? But, damn. When I looked at those numbers, it was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. Yeah, when I was looking at those numbers, I looked at the payroll, and when I looked at the luxury tax fine, or whatever that amount is, absolutely wild. So I opened up the chat for anybody who wanted to discuss the Suns. If it's good with you guys, since I didn't see anybody wanting to drop in and discuss it, we could just move on to this next topic. And I'm not sure if you guys can actually see it. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit for you guys. All right. Might be a little bit too small. Let me see here. Maybe this could work. All right, maybe you guys can't see it. I'll probably just read it to you guys anyways. Oh, this is better. All right, this is cool. Okay. All right, I try to fit it there on the screen. These are the betting odds for the NBA playoffs, like champion, okay? All right, I'm going to start with, I guess, the least likely to win the NBA Finals. And it is the Sacramento Kings, Miami Heat, Dallas Mavericks, Chicago Bulls, Atlanta Hawks. Those are the teams, the 5 that are least likely to win the NBA Finals based on the betting odds. They got them at plus 100,000. Those are your playing teams. All right, then the Magic at plus 75K. Yeah, plus 75K. Pistons at plus 50K. Memphis Grizzlies at plus 25K. Bucks at plus 15K. And then the Pacers at plus 10K. All right, now if I had to bet on one of those teams, like, and based on those betting odds, out of all of them, the only team that I could see making a run to the NBA Finals, maybe, and this is a huge maybe, I really don't think it's likely, Milwaukee Bucks, that's it. They have Giannis, that's all I got. None of these other guys are making finals runs. The teams aren't deep enough. The teams aren't good enough. The stars on their teams don't have the pedigree. Come on. I mean, let's be honest. Like, what the hell? From that, I mean, maybe put $100 on the Bucks and see if that can make you rich. All right. Now, one of the teams that's ranked, I mean, they're pretty distant. I think a good bet is actually the Houston Rockets. They're plus 8,000. I think they're more likely to win the NBA Finals than the Minnesota Timberwolves. Vegas says otherwise. Big money going into the Timberwolves more so than the Rockets. Timberwolves at plus 6,000. The Clippers at plus 5,000. I have no idea why the Clippers are so high. There's like no proof or evidence that Kawhi Leonard's going to play a full playoff series. It's crazy talk. Seriously. It's nuts. Knicks at plus 3,300. That's a reach. But somebody's got to be there, I guess. Nuggets at plus 3,000. I think that's a decent bet. Joker's, he's an MVP. Arguably the best player in the world. So they're plus 3,000. I think the Warriors are like a sleeper pick, right? Like they're a legitimate problem. Like they, Steph, Jimmy, Dre, Kuminga, Pods, Moody. Might want to take a flyer. I don't know. See, but that's the thing, Razor. How am I going to count on something that doesn't exist? When was the last time we saw a healthy Kawhi for the playoff series? Like for an entire playoffs? Like 2019 with the Raptors? Dog. 6 years ago. 6 years ago. So he has like degenerative knee issues. That ain't going to get better. You know what I mean? He's 6 years older. 6 years of knee problems since then, right? Oof. Nah. All right, so Warriors at plus 1,500. All right, then you got the Lakers at plus 1,400. See, this is what I was trying to explain in some of my previous content. The Warriors are only at plus 1,500, but the Lakers are at plus 1,400. Vegas and the betting odds seem to respect the Warriors as much as the Lakers. But the funny thing is the Lakers have better top-end talent. I'll admit that the depth on the Warriors is better. The supplementals, like on the periphery of the roster of the Warriors, might be a little bit better. But the potency of the starters on the Lakers is very, very high. Luka Doncic is not far removed from getting first-place MVP votes. And LeBron James is still, in moments, able to be a very effective player, especially offensively. And he gets his random blocks and stuff like that. He's not bad. He's still a good player offensively. I still think he does a really nice job of getting to the rim. He's still very physically strong. So he can pummel guys, and they don't call offensive fouls, so he could just get away with that. He gets kind of hot. He's a streaky shooter, but if he gets it going, it's very hard to defend him because if he's making the three ball, you got to get up closer, and he's blowing by you, and he's finishing at the rim. He could still do that. Full head of steam, And then Austin Reeves. I don't think anybody saw this coming. Holy cow, man. This guy's so good. And Rui's a nice player. You know what I mean? So the Lakers, they're at plus 1,400. The Warriors right there at plus 1,500. And then you get into like the serious contenders, at least according to the Vegas betting odds. Cavs are plus 600. But I want to discuss something. And that's the top two. The Cavs are plus 600. And then there's a huge degree of separation. The Celtics are plus 180. And the Thunder are plus 170. They are clearly the two teams that Vegas and the bettors, they're clearly the two teams they believe are going to the finals. They think it's going to be the Celtics representing the East. They think it's going to be the Thunder representing the West. All right, so if the Thunder are representing the West and the Celtics are representing the East, who's going to be playing those teams in their conference finals, their respective conference finals? Basically, it's a pick'em between the Lakers and the Warriors playing the Thunder in the Western Conference Finals, or what I think is, it's like a foregone conclusion. It's going to be the Cavs playing the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals, because the next Eastern Conference team that's in this list are the Knicks at plus 3,300. By the way, the Cavs absolutely swept and destroyed the Knicks all year. Not that it means a whole lot, but I don't know, man. The Knicks, their best player doesn't play defense, or can't, or just doesn't, whatever it is. I don't know. Brunson's fantastic, but how good is he at this point coming off the injury? I'm sure he'll be fine in the playoffs, but I'm just saying, I think that goes into this calculus. They're not a very deep team. Josh Hart is a nice player. I love OG Anunoby. I think he's fantastic. Brunson's a great player. He's an all-NBA guard. There's just so many guards, it's hard to get there. And Cat's great. He's fantastic offensively, but it's that team. It's missing something. You know what I mean? So this is it. This is who they're telling you is going to be in the finals. Thunder and Celtics. And then a little bit more distant in chances, it's the Lakers, Cavs, Warriors, and then everybody else is kind of way behind. All right, Razor says, that's the problem. The dude is the best player in the world when healthy, but barely plays nowadays. I don't know, man. Kawhi Leonard, the best player in the world? I don't know. It's been a long time since he's played enough games to be qualified as the best player in the world. He's always been an incredible offensive, defensive combination. Like when you look at both sides of the ball, so I get it. But he's just so unavailable so often. I mean, I don't even think about Kawhi anymore. I've moved on from Kawhi years ago. Like a few years ago. Like when Paul George had to carry the Clippers to the Western Conference Finals or whatever he did. Or like within a game of the Western Conference Finals. I forget what it was. Razor said the Lakers know their weaknesses, but their defense can make up for it. So Razor, look, on the games where their defense is on point, they're very good. They're really inconsistent defensively, which is why you see the Lakers, randomly have these stinkers. Their offense is always going to be there because they've got players that can score in isolation. LeBron's going to have his moments. Austin Reeves, very good. And Luka's, how many guys are better in isolation? Luka doesn't need much to be able to score. He doesn't need a lot of space. He doesn't need conditions. He doesn't need anything specific. The defense can do whatever they want. He could still get his points. So the Lakers, I'm not worried about their offense, even though I think their offense can get kind of stale and it's not very dynamic. It's mostly built on these like switching mismatch thingies that they try to get, but that stuff doesn't always work perfectly in the playoffs. Like you got to move the ball and get clean looks. Luka taking 30 difficult shots a game in the playoffs, I don't know if that's going to end well. Or if LeBron's taking a bunch of challenge threes, like how's that going to be good? So I don't know. All right, so if you guys wanted to chime in, I did put the link in the chat if you guys want to talk about these betting odds. Who do you have as your favorite? Do you agree with these, kind of where people are putting their money and so on? I'm good with it. It's mostly what I expected. I think the Warriors are a good bet if you want to make a bet. Again, I don't condone betting or anything like that, but I think the Rockets are a great way to potentially make a lot of money. Put $100 on the Rockets. Maybe that, turns out to be something. Maybe putting 100 on the Nuggets makes a lot of sense too. And possibly the Warriors, I think. And I guess the Lakers, I don't know. I think the other guys are a little bit more likely. Yo, we got Spence. What up, Spence? All right, Spence, let me see if I can get you in here. Oh, one. All right, hold on one second. Let me get Spence. I forgot to do something with this. Hold on. Here we go. One second, Spence. 1 second.
Are a great.
All right, Spence, let's talk, man.
Let's do it.
All right, go ahead, buddy. Give me your take on these things, man.
The only thing I would say, I can agree with most of it. I would honestly just flip Boston and OKC with each other. I would put Boston at minus 160, and then plus 160, and I would put OKC at plus 170.
So your order is good, but you would just switch some of the money.
Yeah, I would flip Boston and OKC just because Boston has the championship experience.
You know what? But that's not really a big deal, right? Like plus 170, plus 180. I mean, it's not a big difference, not a huge degree of separation. I think it's more respect for the Oklahoma City defense.
True. I don't know. OKC is obviously a lot better than they were last year. That's not a question. But I just think, Boston's been there before. They've done it. I mean, I think they have a little bit of an easier road. Obviously, going through the Cavs is not easy. I'm not saying that's easy. But if you look at what OKC is going to have to go through, I mean, the Western Conference is a lot tougher than the Eastern Conference, I would think. Would you believe that? I think so.
I think the Western Conference is tougher from like top to bottom.
Yeah.
But I think the top end of the East is legitimately tough. Like trying to get through the Cavs and trying to get through the Celtics is a very daunting task. I think for the West, it's the fact that you've got good teams from 1 to 7.
Yeah.
Like that are probably like that could compete with the Cavs and the Thunder, right? Or the Celtics. They'll take games from those teams if they were in a series.
Yes. So I don't know. With these betting things, it really is, like we got Draymond minus like 5,000 at this minus 500 for DPOI, and that just makes no sense. So I
got my own take on that, man. I think it's propaganda. I just don't
propaganda.
See it.
It's unbelievable. It's dumb. Just look at the stats. Just look at them, and you look at the stats. You're like, how? There's no way.
When I look at DPOY and stuff like that, and I mean, even some of these odds with like who's going to the finals. Like I've been watching this season so closely all year. And I'm not going to bail on what I've been watching just because of a good couple of weeks or a good couple of months. This is why I had a huge problem with people trying to push a narrative that LeBron was a top 3 to 5 MVP candidate. Like, you had a good January, you had a good February, like very good January, February. But to put him in the top 3 or 5 is so disrespectful for the guys that have been killing it all year. And I want to say the same thing about like Evan Mobley. Like I get it, it's really sad to see what happened to, Wemby and God willing he comes back strong and healthy and has a great year and a great rest of the career. But like, with him out of the running and out of the qualification, it becomes Evan Mobley's, and I don't think it's even close. Like the guy doesn't foul, and all he does is block shots and redirect shots and get guys out of the paint. Dudes bust U-turns now when they see Evan Mobley in the paint.
Yes, they're scared to go at him.
And the guys that do go up there that have some guts and some balls, they're getting their shots swatted.
Yes.
And they're not bums. These are good players. These are players that finish at the rim. So, and he's very active in getting steals. Look, I'm just sick and tired of narratives created by media as opposed to just watching hoops.
Yes.
Because your eyes don't lie, man. You know what you're seeing.
Yeah. When you look at the game, obviously, if Wemby was here, he would easily win it. If you look at the block, it's crazy. The NBA puts out their weekly league leaders every week to see, and you look at blocks for games. He's not there anymore because he doesn't qualify. But then you swipe to the next block. He still has more blocks than anyone in the league by a ton, and he hasn't played for 4 months now, 2 months. I don't know how long it's been.
Yeah,
it's been a while.
Yeah.
And he still leads the league in blocks, by the way. So, but again, he's out. He doesn't meet the threshold, so he can't win it. So it's Evan Mobley's award, and there's no question about it. If you look at advanced metrics, when Draymond's off the floor, the Warriors' defensive rating is worse by 2 points. That means Draymond is playing great defense. But then you look at the Cavs' defensive rating when Mobley's off the floor, it's 5.2 points.
So you're looking at some of those advanced metrics.
Yes.
Sometimes I just like to watch the players, and I think that sometimes Dre actually hurts his team. And I think that comes as a ding, right? Like Evan Mobley's not getting technicals.
No.
Evan Mobley's not being overly animated and causing problems for his team possession to possession, quarter to quarter. technicals, ejections. He's more level-headed, more even keel. And dude, Draymond is a fantastic defender. I'm not trying to put down Draymond. I just have to pick someone, and I have to pick the best one that I see. So Draymond doesn't block shots with the aptitude that Mobley does. Draymond's hands are very active. He's probably as good a perimeter defender. He might actually be a better perimeter defender. Sometimes Dre's got to get out there. He might have better foot movement, but the ability of Mobley to recover and swat shots from behind, it's like what Wemby does, right? You think you got a layup coming, and then you run into this guy, and you get by him, you're like, oh, snap, I'm going to get this layup. And then he swats the hell out of it. Mobley does that too.
He has insane recovery.
The play's not over just because you get by these guys, is what I'm saying.
No, and it's just frustrating. But when you think about it, it's funny. And I saw a couple of tweets about it, and I don't think it's true, but I think it'd be hilarious that this is some inside scheme by the Cavs to get Draymond to win the depoy, so Evan Mobley isn't eligible for a Supermax next year, so they can save some money. I thought that was hilarious.
Spence, talk to me about the Phoenix Suns, man.
Oh, brother, that disaster? I don't know. I don't even know what to say.
Blow it up. Keep something.
I caught a little bit at the end of the segment. I joined at the end of the Phoenix Suns segment. I would definitely get rid of Durant. It's not working. You've tried it for too long. It doesn't work. Him and Booker just don't work, and it should be the greatest tandem ever. And I don't know ever. Okay, that's pushing it, but it should be a really, really solid. And you had Bradley Beal. You had a good team. This was a good team, and it's frustrating. I mean, I'm not frustrated. I'm not a Suns fan. But if you're a Suns fan, you are so frustrated that this didn't work. You had so many good opportunities. You made it to the finals in 2020. Was it 2021, right? I think that's when they made the finals, right?
2020, 2021, yeah.
Yeah, so, and you think you have, the pieces, but then you get rid of DeAndre Ayton for your reasons. You get rid of Chris Paul. He goes to the Spurs. And now you have this lineup with Beal, Booker, Durant. Who else is on that squad down there? Is Nurkic down there?
Yeah.
Yusuf Nurkic? Yeah, he's down there. He never stays healthy. Ever since that big injury in Portland, he's been very inconsistent in staying in the lineup. It's just frustrating. I would blow it up. It's not working. I would keep Booker unless Booker wants to be moved. And if Booker wants to be moved, then try to see as much draft capital as you can get. I hate to say it, but it's just pointless going around in circles trying to make this Durant Booker thing working. It's just not going to work. Why? There's no reason. You either are pushing for a playoff spot or you're pushing for a lottery spot. And the Suns right now, you're in a position of neither. You're not getting a lottery pick, and you're not making the postseason. So this season is
I don't even know what they have
disaster.
For picks. I don't know what they have left because they gave all that away.
All that away. And you need to start getting it back. But they're in the worst spot an NBA team could be in. You're not in the postseason, and you're not in a position to get a lottery pick. This is a complete disaster. Even if you have a horrendous season, at least you have something to look forward to. At least you have a lottery pick. They don't have either.
Yeah, all their picks are in Washington, Indiana, Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
They're...
So it's time to blow it up. Find where Durant wants to go. Ship him off. If Booker wants to go, yeah, you don't want to get rid of Booker because he sells tickets and he puts butts in seats, but you have to start thinking about the future. It didn't work. It's like one of those things you don't want to say it didn't work because you were so hopeful on it, but it's time to take the horse out to the back and shoot it. It's done.
All right, let's take a look at some of the live chat items here. This one is from Razor, and Spence, you're a Cleveland guy, so Cavs will have a tough time if they end up facing Miami and Indiana. Agree or disagree?
I agree. I disagree with Miami. I think we match up really well with Miami, and I can definitely hear an argument for Indiana. I definitely am going to respect Indiana. I think I was very encouraged to see how they played against Indiana without Garland, without Mobley. In that TNT game, Sam Merrill had a lot of big threes. He played really well. DeAndre Hunter had a fantastic game on national television. So that was really good to see against a really good, scrappy Pacers team and they were fully healthy. They were playing everyone, and not our stars. No Mitchell, no Garland, no Mobley. They came out, and him, Hunter, Jerome, and Allen played really well in that game. That gave me a lot of confidence that if we're fully healthy, we could beat the Indiana Pacers in a 7-game series. Miami, I think we could sweep Miami. I'm not scared of Miami. Miami, it gives me no fear at all.
Neither of those teams, I don't think have a chance against the Cavs. I mean, maybe what Razor is saying, tough time, maybe taking 1 or 2 games from them, maybe, or keeping a couple games close, that sort of thing.
I could see Indiana at best taking you 6 game. Miami, no. It should be, I think, 4 or 5. I don't see Miami really pulling up a big fight.
The Magic, I actually think, would give the Cavs the greatest issue.
Yes.
I think that's because of Paolo, because of, Franz and those guys. Like, they just have a thing with the Cavs, like some games, some players and some teams just get up for it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Browns Steelers. Like, they're just going to show up for that one.
Yeah, I would take anyone in the play-in, but I've said this tons of times. I would take anyone in the play-in but Orlando.
Yeah, Orlando's plays the Cavs very, very tough. I think the Bucks are a hot team too. You know what I mean? So like, you probably want to avoid dealing with Giannis if you can. You'd rather some other team deal with them. I think you have no fear against the Knicks, no fear against the Pacers, no fear against the Heat. The Hawks or the Bulls or the Heat or whatever.
None of those guys.
Yeah, but like the Magic, the Pistons would be a pain in the ass.
Yep.
So like there's a couple of teams out there that I'm not trying to see. Dude, the Bucks have won 7 in a row. The Magic have won 5 in a row. Some of these teams are getting hot at the right time and they're peaking.
I would love to see the Pistons have to play Boston. That'd be great if Boston got Detroit or something. So
Spence, here's your current outlook on the playoffs. It's not like 100% or whatever, but you've got Cavs with whoever would be 8th, and that would be the winner of the Magic and Hawks currently.
Yep.
Then you would have Pacers, Bucks at 4th and 5th. Then it would be the Knicks and the Pistons, and then Celtics would be playing either the Heat or the Bulls. So, in my opinion, the first round matchups, the Celtics advance. I think the Knicks beat the Pistons, but in like a 6 or a 7 game series. And that's just because I think Cat's a very good offensive player, and I think Jalen Brunson is criminally underrated. I think he's so good. And then, with the Pacers Bucks, I'll take the Bucks. I will take the Bucks. I will take Giannis. He's a legitimate MVP caliber player. I'm taking the Bucks there, and then I'm of course taking the Cavs on whoever they play. And then out west, I'm taking whoever the Thunder play. It doesn't matter. I'm taking OKC in that matchup. If the Nuggets end up playing the Clippers, I'm taking the Nuggets. If the Lakers end up playing the Warriors, that is so dangerous for the Lakers. Mm-hmm. So dangerous, because I've had this discussion with people in the comments of the videos. The Lakers' inconsistencies on defense will be a huge problem against the Warriors.
Oh, absolutely.
Just think about it. Steph's running around going crazy, hitting threes. You're in trouble. Jimmy's a smart player with the ball.
Playoff Jimmy.
Kuminga's very good. Dre can be a problem. The Warriors are the biggest threat as a first-round upset for any team in this league. And then I'll take the Rockets over whoever they play. I think the Rockets are fantastic. They've got a great coach. They have a fantastic young roster. My only concerns for some of the teams out west is inexperience. Like, I worry a little bit about the Rockets. Maybe they're early. I worry a little bit about the Thunder, like with Chet. But like the rest of the team, they've solidified themselves as defensively potent.
Yes.
And I don't sleep on Joker. Dude's like the best basketball player in the world. So
never sleep on Joker. I cannot wait to watch the Lakers and the Warriors. That's the series. That'd be such a fun series to watch.
Yeah, man. I think these playoffs are going to be great. I think that's how it's going to pan out. What else you got for me, Spence? Anything else?
What was I going to say? I had one more thing. Oh, Darius Garland and Madison Square Garden. That's all. That was it. That was sick. That is the Darius Garland in the postseason. That is what I want to see in the clutch, taking over games, and doing it himself. I think that is a massive confidence boost going into the postseason. Obviously, it's just one game, but especially on that one play towards the end of the game, he drove on Jalen Brunson. He got whacked, no whistle, and he just put it right up and in. That is a playoff bucket right there. Goes right through the contact, doesn't complain about the foul call, and just puts it out with the shot clock expiring. That's what we need. Like, that is the Darius Garland we're going to need.
Spence, have you seen any of my deep dives, film sessions, and film breakdowns on players?
Yes.
Okay, I'm thinking about doing one real quick, like tomorrow, on Darius Garland.
Shifty.
And just do it because I think it's going to be a huge step for him in the playoffs. Because remember last year?
Yes.
And you remember the injuries and all those things. So, like, I think it's his year. Like, I still think Don's going to be Don, and I still think Evan Mobley's going to be a huge reason we get to the finals if we do.
Yes.
You know, and I think DeAndre Hunter is going to be a huge X factor as well.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, Darius Garland he's just a different guy now. You know, like, offensively, he's got the swag right now when he's got the pill to distribute the rock, to score the rock, the teardrop, floater that's in the paint. Is taking his threes without really any reservation. He's just ready. If he sees the rim, he's going to take it. He's doing all the right things. And in games where Mitchell's off or not available, like he's scoring like as the primary scorer.
Yeah, it's fun to watch.
His defense has effort, but it's not great because he's a smaller guy.
Yeah.
So, like, they always look for that switch with the bigger guards and the bigger, like, the small forward, like the wings. But but he's not a bad defender, and he's willing to defend. Like, some guys are unwilling to defend. Like, James Harden doesn't defend, right?
No.
But, like, if you had Darius Garland inside of James Harden's body, he'd be an all-league NBA defender. It's crazy,
That's funny.
Yeah,
That's unbelievable.
Good call, Spence. Thank you, man.
Yep, no problem.
Appreciate you.
Have a good night.
Excellent call from Spence, man. Friend of the channel, friend of the show. Always appreciate him calling in. All right, let's get to this next story. All right, with this next story, I want to discuss... Oops, where are we at here? What are we doing here? Okay, this is what I want to do. This story actually about Joker. This story about Michael Malone. This story from Woody Page. You guys might not know who Woody Page is, but I've been following this guy for a long time since he was on Around the Horn and he was doing all the writing and stuff for the Denver Post or whatever. Really, really connected when it comes to like Denver sports. So Broncos, Nuggets and all that. Rockies, Colorado Rockies. Anyways, he had some information that he wanted to let people know about. People were asking him or whatever. And some of it's kind of damning, actually. And some of you like Joker, I'm assuming, and some of you don't. There are some people who do not like Joker. I don't even know if it's that they don't like Joker. I think it's that they think Joker is overrated, or they think he doesn't deserve all of the, the glazing or whatever, and they want to. Sometimes camps develop. Like, you guys know, I want SGA to win the MVP, but it's hard to argue that Joker isn't deserving. The guy's like the most incredible talent this era has seen in one player, right? Like, I mean, I think SGA is amazing too, and I hope he wins the MVP. But if this guy Joker wins the MVP, I am mad. Giannis is deserving too, but like only one guy can win the MVP. Anyways, Michael Malone was fired last week, and just seemingly out of nowhere, but it seems like there was a bunch of toxicity within the organization. Longtime Denver sports columnist Woody Page, and he's a panelist on some of like the ESPN shows and such. He said that there was quite a bit of infighting within the Nuggets organization, and he said that Joker had grown frustrated, which may have contributed potentially to the firing of Michael Malone and the removal of the GM Calvin Booth. Woody Page says that his sources, told him that the ownership group of the Nuggets likely consulted Joker before making their decision. Here's his quote. This is from Woody Page. Quote, "It's my understanding from those that I talk to and trust that Stan Kroenke and Josh Kroenke didn't make this decision without going to the greatest player in the entire world, and that would be Jokic." He goes on to say, "I think that Jokic was frustrated by the players that he is surrounded with, by what's happened to this team, particularly defensively." I think all of this is valid. I don't think there's anything crazy or outlandish about this. The defensive piece makes me laugh, though, a little bit. Like, there's a part of me that's kind of chuckling inside. And that's because I remember Michael Malone speaking about defense in pressers, talking about the team and how he didn't like the defensive effort. Well, if your head coach is questioning the defensive effort of his team, and Jokic, the best player on the team, is questioning the efforts of the defense of the team, the only thing you could think of is, since they both think there's a defensive issue, Joker saying, "Why can't you fix the defense?" That's kind of where I think this is going. I talked about this in the video, and I talked about this on the last live stream. Calvin Booth is culpable because he let the championship pieces leave, right? KCP, Bruce Brown, the team wasn't the same after they won the finals. They never really got to repeat. Jamal Murray has not been available as much as they need him to be in order for them to make finals runs. Aaron Gordon's been injured a little bit this year. Christian Brown has come along very nicely. You know, and Russ has had his moments, but overall Russ has not, you know, he's not that type of player anymore at this point. And he hasn't really catapulted this team into some, you know, some new team, you know, like with a new identity defensively or whatever. I don't know. So it's very possible that they made this move for Joker because of Joker. It's very possible. The players are very influential today. You know, and the ownership group doesn't want to lose Jokic. If they lose Jokic, their organization is set back for decades. Like, when's the next time they're going to have a guy like this, a transcendental talent? He's won 3 of the last 4 MVPs. One could argue, you know, outside of Embiid, like, this guy could have won all 4. And he could win one this year and be a 5-in-a-row MVP. It would be crazy. So, infighting between the main guys within the organization, Jokic was consulted, all of those things coming together. I don't think anything is out of the realm of possibility. I think all this is legitimate. Here's what Woody Page went on to say. Quote, "In my 50 years of being in Colorado, I've never quite seen anything that even comes close to what we're seeing. They've gone from being one of the top 3 teams in the Western Conference to being one of the teams that might not even get to the playoffs if they were to lose the rest of the games." This commentary was from 3 days ago, so like right after the firing. Quote, "This season is winding down as poorly as it could possibly happen." Man, that's tough. It's tough. Now, they did win a game. I think they beat the Kings. The team seems to be in decent spirits. Maybe it was that toxic and, you know, you just had to do something, you know. Oh, man. We'll see what they do in the offseason. But the Nuggets, the ending to the season, not great. All right, this next story, man. This shit is hilarious. Yo, I'm sorry, guys. I try to be like, you know, present myself well on these podcasts, and this is insane. This story about LeBron and Isaiah Thomas is crazy. This story is crazy. Do I have the audio for you guys? I do. I have the audio for you guys. I can actually play the audio of what Isaiah Thomas said about LeBron. This is crazy. I'll mute myself. I'll just play the video, guys. Let's do it.
second part of our doubleheader tonight. LeBron James going to play the game like this. Shirts and skins is what they're doing in that way.
I just totally 100% object to this. And if I was the GM or coach,
Me too.
I would never let one of my players walk out on the floor looking like this. I mean, we are a professional NBA league. We ain't summer league. We ain't, at the YMCA.
Listen, I think coaches got to go back to suits.
Absolutely.
I just mean.
Absolutely. I just think.
College and pro.
I just think the professionalism in our NBA league has diminished so much. And I look, I like LeBron. I'm a fan of his, so forth and so on. But to walk out on the floor before a game with no shirt on and shoot, I mean, come on, man. Where we at? What we doing? Where we at? Now, if you want to, Adam Silver, if you want to find somebody, find that. Put a fine on that.
Spoken.
All right, guys. All right. So what he's talking about is they were doing LeBron's doing a shoot around, and he's got no shirt on, and you got the media, you got the video cameras there, filming pregame, and you got to know something about Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah Thomas, first of all, is a legend. He's, I think, a 2-time champion, 10+ time All-Star. His accolades speak for themselves. This guy was all NBA. He was one of the guys that was keeping Michael Jordan from getting championships. It was like that. He was him. If you guys like the way Steph Curry plays, if you guys like handles, if you like guards that could score, point guards that could score and dish, just go back and watch Isaiah Thomas. And this guy absolutely loves and adores LeBron, and he's always complimentary of LeBron, speaks so highly of him, promotes him, shows appreciation and acknowledgement of LeBron's greatness. So this is not him hating on LeBron. This is clearly someone who feels a certain way about the professionalism or lack thereof in this instance for LeBron to come out going shirtless with a do-rag on, man. This is crazy. Yeah. I've seen the post-game interviews in the locker room where LeBron's shirtless, but you're in the locker room, right? So whatever. But I get what he's saying here. And maybe Isaiah, because he's a little bit older now, maybe if he was a player in today's game, he would feel a little bit different about it. But I think that's what Isaiah Thomas is talking about. LeBron's like a steward of the league. He's a representation of the league, and you want to put your best foot forward all the time. And maybe he feels like this is kind of a letdown. It's kind of a step backwards or something like that. I think his commentary, while it was funny and kind of tongue-in-cheek when he was talking about the YMCA and the, that kind of stuff, I get it. I truly understand it. And then the other person who was with him on the panel was talking about how, coaches need to go back to wearing suits and ties. I mean, those are personal opinions. I don't try to devalue people's opinions. This is not an attack against LeBron. It's really not. It's clearly someone who feels like we need to have a better representation of the league because he knows what's at stake. He understands the social stigma about the NBA because he's seen the evolution of the NBA. He knows what the NBA was before him. He knows what the NBA was like during his time in the league, and he's been watching it play out since he retired. And he wants to continue to see the NBA move forward. He's an ambassador of the league, Isaiah Thomas, and so is LeBron. I think that's kind of his approach. I don't think it's him hating on LeBron. I think it's him, saying be more conscious of what you're doing when you represent the league. And that's kind of how I took it. Take a look at some of your guys' comments in the live chat. Spurs Ann said, this shirtless thing is wild, but if I want to see LeBron almost naked, I'd follow him on social media. I don't. Where's his warm-up clothes? All right, so point well taken. I'm with you there. Social media, obviously these are extensions of the players making themselves accessible to fans. Maybe that's the time and the place for it, like Spurs Ann was saying. Spencer says he's running 5s at LA Fitness. Is that what happens at LA Fitness? I don't know, man. It's been a while since I played hoops at LA Fitness. I don't know if I remember people playing skins, but I got you, man. Spurzan says his need for constant attention is really mental and now thirsting up the court. That's crazy. All right, let's do this one then. Let's see what else we got for you guys. All right, transitioning to this next story. All right, this next one is a little bit more serious. At least I would take this one a little bit more seriously, in my personal opinion. The guy that you see on the screen, that's Rick Bucher, the guy on the left. Rick Bucher is not to be questioned. Rick Bucher is a lifer when it comes to covering the league, covering players, knowing and understanding the game, knowing and understanding the legends, the historian side of it, the objective views, that sort of thing. Like, Rick Bucher has seen it all. He's seen him put it together and he's seen him tear it apart and rebuild it. Like, that's... his credibility is through the roof. He was talking about LeBron on one of these recent episodes, I think on Speak for Yourself or whatever it was. I think he's still contributing on that show as one of the panel members. But he was talking about, like, LeBron straight up lying. Whether it was like through statistics or, about, just these little things. I mean, LeBron's been caught in a lot of lies over the course of his career. Some of them are like absolutely minuscule and are meaningless. They don't like have any impact on anything. They're harmless, little white lies or whatever you want to call them. But sometimes it's really about it being self-serving to promote his brand or to promote his greatness or build up his legacy and manufacture some additional, greatness points, if you will, brownie points with fans. To be honest with you guys, I don't think LeBron fans need to be convinced that LeBron's great. They already believe that, right? Like, and even if you're not a LeBron stan, even if you're not a, LeBron thong or, LeBron Knight or whatever they call them, jock sniffers, LeBron jock sniffers. Like, even if you're not one of those, you could still appreciate his greatness as a player. Like, the dude is he's won championships, he's won MVPs, his ability to play very well for a very long time. And, when you watch him play basketball, I mean, it's pretty amazing. It's some of the extracurricular stuff that I think turns some people off to him. And that's some of the stuff I think what Rick Bucher is talking about. And I think a lot of people, and now the media is starting to come around to it, they're sick and tired of having their intelligence insulted. Like, some of the things LeBron says, he could be fact-checked on and just see it's a straight-up lie. And there's no reason for him to lie. LeBron's great. And maybe you don't think he's the GOAT, and maybe you don't want to think he's the GOAT, and you're perfectly entitled to your opinion. Nobody's here trying to change your mind, or you do what you do. But like, Rick Bucher's probably just sick and tired of it because he's even been approached by Clutch Sports to promote LeBron as getting MVP votes. So like, this guy's not feeling all this stuff. Anyways, let's do the audio clip. Let's hear what Rick Bucher had to say about LeBron in regards to him straight up lying to fans.
The truth is, he is trending very much the other way lately, punching holes in an already fairly ventilated credibility. Let's start with his interview a few weeks ago, in which he talked about both reporter Brian Windhorst and his reputation for being a flopper, among other subjects. I don't want to spend too much time on the Windhorst subject. I have as much respect for Brian as I do any NBA reporter in the business today. Let's leave it that part at that. I know the difficult line he has had to walk as someone who has covered LeBron as a newspaper reporter in Cleveland, and especially now at ESPN, which is perfectly fine and in some ways encourages currying favor with the athletes that they cover. The commercials that you see of made-up scenarios where Great athletes are shot working in the ESPN Bristol, Connecticut offices in various roles. A brilliant campaign, by the way, is the relationship the company now embraces for the sake of access, aka ratings, also known as revenue. Once upon a time, it was just an ad campaign. Now it's a mission statement. All the vehicles inside ESPN that covered sports in a serious way or a critical way are gone. There's no more Outside the Lines. There's no more The Sports Reporters. There's no more Mark Schwartz or Jeremy Schaap. And my guess is there are sports fans who don't even know who those guys are. Windhorst has taken great pains to be fair, but honest in his coverage and analysis of LeBron. But he has never, ever pretended to have a personal relationship with him. I almost feel as if he's gone out of his way, in spite of the fact that they went to the same high school and his mom taught LeBron at one point, that he's gone out of his way to make it clear that they don't have a personal relationship. Do they know each other? How could they not? They went to the same high school. Brian has covered him since he came into the league practically. But Brian never, publicly or privately, has tried to suggest that he has some sort of special relationship with LeBron. So for LeBron to say that it's weird that Brian pretends he's LeBron's friend is not only a patently false premise for anybody who knows both of them, it's such an unnecessary shot at someone who in no way deserved it. It's both mean-spirited and it's being a bully. To what end? This is not the first time I've had this thought. And for those of you who don't like politics and sports, this isn't a political statement. It's simply stating a fact. LeBron's method of operation is exactly the same as our current president. They tell lies that are so easily exposed by anyone willing to take 5 minutes of research or simply paying attention to current events that you wonder how they got the idea or the courage to tell them in the first place. The lies are so blatantly obvious that they are insulting to anyone of average intelligence.
So this is where things are going. He's going to explain some more things, but I always thought that the bullying has been kind of more of an undertone, probably happening more behind closed doors, like giving access to certain people to have access to what goes on with LeBron and whatever else and his camp, and then not giving it to others. What LeBron did with Stephen A. Smith, like in terms of that quote-unquote confrontation, that was very controlled, that was very methodical. LeBron tried to make it about his son, it wasn't. But like that was bullying too. So the bullying, and then like LeBron calling everybody weird, he's the weird one. Like you trying to bully Brian Windhorst, who has done nothing but help you build your legacy. Like he's been there. It's not that he did anything for your legacy. He was just there to be a part of it because he was a writer. He was journalistically involved in your career. He was there. Yes, he was on for the ride. But he was a positive beacon within your trajectory. And now you're going to shit on him? Same thing with Stephen A. Smith. Dude is always talking about how great LeBron is. Philanthropist, great father, blah, blah, blah. Like, it almost... So, like, when LeBron said, like, that's weird, why would you want to be the face of the league? Like, he's weird. His perception, his grasp of reality, I don't think he realizes what's happening in front of him. People aren't just going to let him walk all over them anymore. And these are people that haven't done anything wrong to him. Rick Bucher explained that. He goes on.
The two of them even recite imaginary conversations with people who supposedly confirm whatever myth that they're trying to sell. And I can only theorize, and I'm going to put my Dr. Phil hat on, I can only theorize that the reason is the same. There's an insecurity complex that creates a need to make themselves bigger than they actually are. I actually don't think it's all that complicated. In any case, LeBron's response to being labeled a flopper is another perfect example. In the interview, when asked why he's flopping all the time and if he's looking for the same advantage that Patrick Mahomes is looking for when he embellishes contact, LeBron said, "I wish," because it was suggested that Holmes gets 15 yards anytime he embellishes contact. And LeBron said, "I wish, because I literally, over the last 5-6 years, when everybody is claiming I flop all the time, I'm like in the bottom half of free throw attempts per game." Those are his words verbatim. He's in the bottom half of free throw attempts per game the last 5-6 years. Here's the reality.
So this is something that we could fact check. We can go back and check to see how many free throws LeBron has taken compared to his contemporaries. Other guys in the league, guys that are qualifying, right, have taken enough free throw attempts and made enough free throw attempts, played enough games, whatever. Like, this can be fact checked. You know, just a couple weeks ago, LeBron said that Giannis could score 250 points back in the 70s. There's some kind of self-serving element in all of this. I think it's crazy work for Rick Bucher to compare him to Donald Trump. I think it's wild. But he's trying to show that insecurity, self-serving kind of mission that they're on. So here he is kind of fact-checking it. LeBron saying that he's in the bottom half of the league in free throw attempts.
Easily researched. LeBron James has never been anywhere close to the bottom half of the league in free throw attempts per game or for a season ever. Let me walk you through the math. There are 30 teams which are allowed to carry 15 players on standard contracts, another 3 on two-ways. That's a total of 18, which is 540 players, but we'll leave out the two-way players for this exercise. Let's go just with 15 players per team, 30 teams, that's 450 players. An average of around 500 players take at least one free throw in a season, but again, for the sake of bending over backwards to be fair as possible, let's just go with the number of players who take enough free throws to actually qualify for the free throw shooting title, which is roughly 260. You're still with me, right? LeBron is one of 260 players who shoot enough free throws to qualify to be ranked by the league in free throw attempts per game. Is he in the bottom half of those 260 players? Well, half of the last 6 years, LeBron didn't play enough games to qualify, but we can still look at what he averaged for the games he did play and where he ranked overall. And here's the reality. Over the last 6 years, whether you include this year or exclude it and go back to the 2018-19 season, he has never been lower than 26th in free throw attempts per game. In order to be in the bottom half, he would have to be 131st or lower. He's never been lower, ever, than 26th.
Okay, so here's the math on being never lower than 26th. He's in the top 10 percentile of free throw attempts. He said he's never been out of the bottom half. And in actuality, he's in the top 10 percentile. What type of players are in the top 10 percentile? Well, it's the floppers. It's the actors. It's the ones that convince the referees that they have been mugged. It's the ones that pretend like their life has been compromised due to some excessive contact that could result in their demise physically. Guys, to me, this is a scathing analysis of LeBron's comments. Rick Bucher is not for games. He is not a hater. He is not a troll. He named people. When he was talking about Jeremy Schaap and sports reporters, he was talking about ESPN and the direction they have gone, becoming a quote-unquote entertainment company, and how they build these stories, and it's all about these fictional explanations of situations and scenarios. He's not for lies, and he's not for games. What he's talking about, LeBron, in this instance, is what so many others are saying, and are starting to say it more. LeBron's losing his power as a social media controller. He's losing his power as a national media controller. How long did he expect this whole shtick to last? It lasts as long as people want it to. They don't want it to last anymore. Rick Bucher's done. He's checking out. Stephen A. Smith has moved on. A lot of guys have moved on. Some of them might actually be like legitimate haters. Like, think about Skip Bayless. He's positioned himself as the anti-LeBron. But Rick Bucher's not. You know, and then you got the opposite side. You got like the Shannon Sharps rubbing honey all over LeBron and all that weird stuff. There needs to be balance in the universe, and this is what I've said. If you want to talk hoops, talk hoops. We could talk about LeBron's amazing passes. We could talk about some of the amazing shots that LeBron has hit in clutch moments. We could talk about his failures in clutch moments. We could talk about his 2011 finals loss. We could talk about his 2016 finals win. All those things are part of basketball. But this other stuff, this extracurricular stuff, it's about narrative and it's about control. And he simply is losing it. His grip on that really strong, powerful control, it's just looser than it used to be. And I think at some point, and I had this conversation with Chill, you guys know OG from Chilltown Hoops, is the juice worth the squeeze anymore? Maybe to some it is. In some ways, he's still the face of the NBA because I think the NBA hasn't been willing to move on. Like at Christmas, it was like LeBron versus Steph. Like, the Warriors were trash at the time, you know, and Steph wasn't playing that great. You know, LeBron wasn't playing that great, and they made it about them. And, like, what about all the incredible things that were happening around the league, like the Cavs and the Thunder? They were all surging at the time. Nobody was talking about them. The national media didn't want to discuss it. Nothing. Nobody wants to talk about Stephon Castle in San Antonio as Rookie of the Year. Nobody was really talking about Wemby. You know, it's crazy. I went ahead and posted the link for the call. If you guys want to jump in there and discuss this or anything that Rick Bucher talked about or your perception on how you see some of these things, I don't know where you stand. You know, like, but people don't like being lied to. Nobody's trying to convince you, at least not on this channel. Nobody's trying to convince you if LeBron is your GOAT or isn't your GOAT. I don't really care. I think GOAT conversations are like way too common. I think the term and the word GOAT is thrown around way too easily. I think the title of great or elite is thrown around too easily. I think we need to start being more careful about how we evaluate players and their legacies. I think we can appreciate and respect players. I don't think we should let media narratives drive that. And I don't think Rick Bucher appreciates the way that things have gone. And I think he's just being critical of a toxic developing situation in the media. Like, Brian Windhorst didn't deserve this. The fans don't deserve to be lied to. But it's really important, and I think this is the point I want to drive home. We as fans, you know, how we watch the game and how we consume the game, you just don't fall for the narratives, right? That's the bottom line, is you don't need to, and you don't have to accept it. You don't have to feed into it. I think, unfortunately, and it's really crazy, this happens on my videos all the time. I make videos, I post them, and it's like a video about like the Lakers and how they're not contenders. I point out their weaknesses. And then, you know, it gets a tons of views, and I get harassed by people in the comment section. By the way, guys, I don't really care. Like, people dropping comments like, bro, who hurt you? You know, or this dude's a hater. The world needs balance. I got a million other people rubbing honey all over him. I don't need to talk about how great he is with media narratives. Let's talk hoops. Let's talk hoops. I was talking about how in the Bulls game, LeBron's basketball IQ was being questioned. Valid. The stupid spinning turnover pass, where with the lazy inbound pass, the gambling on the defensive end. You know, the poor shooting, which poor shooting is not the end of the world, but like the bad decision making, the gambling on defense, the turnovers. And people are saying I was nitpicking plays, but those were the plays that lost the game. Let's talk hoops. But they don't want you to talk hoops. They want you to talk narratives and these made up like things like about not being a free throw merchant. Like people call SGA a free throw merchant. But like how many seasons in the last 6 years has SGA been in the top 10 percentile in free throws? If it's more than 6, let me know. I don't know, man. Spurzan says it's like everything is a... Spencer says bro is great, but needs to lock it in the playoffs. I don't know. The way I look at it is simple. We watch hoops, we evaluate the play. When LeBron retires, eventually he's going to retire. We're only going to evaluate his game. The made-up figments of the imagination about, you know, whether or not he flopped or whether, like, flopping is going to be on video. And his free throw attempts per year it's going to be recorded. Like, you can't lie about these things. You can't hide these things. You can't make things up. He's a great player. People don't need to hear me say that. They know he's great. We all know he's great. But why the manufactured excuses in order to make him look better? Why the insecurities being magnified? I thought that was a damning analogy to talk about like him and Trump. It's ironic. Really ironic, actually. Anyways, I hope you guys really enjoyed the show. I did drop the link. We try to get more calls. It's okay. Maybe on the next one, we'll get more people to call in. It was amazing. Thank you guys so much for your support. The people in the live chat, the folks that were here early, the folks that stayed for the whole thing. You guys are the best. Thank you, Spurzan. Doctor, what up? Spencer, I appreciate the call. Earlier, we had some of the other guys. Dusty was here. Razor, salute to you. And I think there were some LeBron jock sniffers that were in here earlier, but they left. The jock sniffers came and went. You know, talking about like LeBron GOAT. They came and left. They didn't stay. They should have stayed. Anyways, thanks for all that you do, people. Please like and share. Let people know we're making content on this channel. Rate this video. Thank you so very much. We'll be dropping content. Thanks, guys. We'll clip this up and we'll get it out to more folks. Thanks again. Have a great week.